Joe Krein from Elvis2001.net. We're on Elvis Radio. We have with us today a best-selling author, television personality, a successful businesswoman, and an accomplished actress. She is also known for her spirit of giving back through various charities. Many fans know her as a cousin to the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. We have Edie Hand with us. Hi, Edie.
Hey, Joe. How are you today?
Oh, we're doing fine, doing fine. Can I ask you a little bit about yourself first? Where were you born?
Yes, I'm a Alabama girl. My family was living in Cleveland, Ohio, and they came back home. My mother did to give birth to me in a little area called Russellville, Alabama, and that's near where I grew up in northwest Alabama. My grandmother and my mom's mom were my side of the family where my lineage is with the Presleys.
Mm-hmm. Any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I had 3 brothers, David, Terry, and Philip, and a baby sister. I was the oldest, and I lost all 3 of my brothers, passed away young, unfortunately.
Yes, that's terrible. What did your parents do?
Well, my father was a mechanic, and he also owned a country grocery store when we moved back south in our little community. And we also, my father worked as the head mechanic for the TVA, which is it's the Tennessee Valley Authority. Was like a power company there that supplied the power to a large portion of that northwest Alabama and Tennessee line area.
Now, what did you want to do when you grew up?
Well, like my 3 brothers and I, we would ride to these little hillsides, these little Indian mounds, tie our horses up, Spotted Cloud, Polly, and Trigger, and dream about what we were going to be. My dream was to be an actress on the big stage and maybe even the big screen, and to write books and tell stories.
Wow. Now, could you tell me your genealogy of how are you related to Elvis Presley?
This is on my grandmother's side of the family. My mother's mother was Alice Hood Hacker, and Minnie Mae was a Hood, and Minnie Mae's brother was Harrison, and that was my grandma's dad. So we grew up getting to go to Graceland. I was one of the few of the cousins because I guess I connected so well with Grandma Minnie, which everyone called her Aunt Minnie, that wasn't, her grandchild, and we called her Aunt Minnie, and she was my great aunt. And we had behind in the 2 trailers was Nash Pritchett, which was Vernon, Elvis's dad's youngest sister, and she was an ordained Assembly of God minister. So I spent a lot of time with her and with her youngest daughter, Karen Pritchett. So I loved them very much. And Delta, of course, by then, Elvis had asked her to move into Graceland and be a hostess at the house because she didn't have any children and she'd lost her husband.
Right.
So, I had lots of fond memories of getting to go there. I started getting to go to Graceland when I was about 16 years old. And even from the first time I saw him on the big screen and on the television floor in my little northwest Alabama town with my grandmother there and my mom and dad, and he was on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I was probably about 8 years old.
Wow. So
it was pretty cool then to go and actually meet him when he was a big star, because he was about 16 years older than me, so he was a big star at 32. And a wonderful friendship when I would get to visit there. I was starting to college the next year, and so it was a wonderful experience for me to get to go and hang out with Uncle Vernon, Aunt Nash, and Aunt Minnie, and to be there some with Elvis. Got to know all the Jordanaires, Charlie Hodge, Blackwood Brothers, James, and so it was a great experience for a young girl.
It sounds it. What'd you think of Graceland?
Well, at that era, obviously, now it doesn't look so big, but then it was huge.
I bet.
I thought it was just an enormous house with, the first time I got to visit was at Christmas, and I can remember entering in the foyer and to the left seeing this large Christmas tree.
Wow.
And I remember Nash's husband had gone out, he took care of the maintenance of the grounds and had gotten that tree, and I thought I had never seen a tree that large, nor had I ever seen that many presents on the floor.
Wow.
And I remember saying, are these for all of you? And they, Grandma Minnie and Aunt Minnie to me said, no, dear, most of these presents are to give away, and Elvis was always so big in giving back, and that certainly touched me at a young age and had a profound impression on me of wanting to grow up and think, wow, if I could make enough money and give back to others like this or in some portion, I want to do that one day. So yes, it had a profound impression on me.
Now, Elvis loved Christmas, didn't he?
One of his favorite times of the year. Yes, he did.
Yeah, and he loved.
He was a big Santa Claus.
Was he? Yeah, he loved to give. He loved to give.
He loved to give.
Yeah.
To strangers, to his family, to friends. He was a very generous man.
He gave to a lot of charities that a lot of people didn't know when he was still alive. Isn't that true?
Oh yeah. I mean, he didn't do it all for the publicity. He did it because he could, and he recalled what it was like being a poor boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, and any of us that have had any humble beginnings, you appreciate the value of someone sharing things. And I was blessed to grow up, though, in a more upper-middle-class family, but only because my father made the great sacrifice to work so many jobs, and he was quite an entrepreneur himself. But I did have a lot of family that was less fortunate, and I always shared what I had.
Did you have a lot of Did you have a lot of girlfriends that were fans? And was that hard sometimes? I mean,
oh God, yes. In college, I remember some girls at the dorm where I stayed that said, "Edie, could you not bring us back something from Graceland?" And one of my favorite stories to share is that I thought, "God, I don't know, I'll see." Was that this one particular night, and I was going to be leaving kind of early, and I had driven to Graceland, which was about 3 hours, and spent the weekend with my cousin Karen and Aunt Nash in the trailer behind. I'd walked over to that main house to visit with Aunt Minnie, and Vernon was there, and it was my first time to meet Colonel Parker. I only got to meet him that once, and he was happened to be there that particular Sunday. And I think Lisa Marie was there. She was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5, I think, around that time. That and Priscilla and Elvis at that time were estranged, so I never got to know her, but I always thought she was so beautiful from afar. But I remember Lisa Marie went down the steps, and I picked her up and went on into Grandma Minnie's room. We chatted, but I came back out, and Uncle Vernon and then we're talking, and I just went in and spoke. And I remember that after they had done their business talking, they retired and went downstairs to another room to talk, and I was hanging out with Charlie in the kitchen and Mary Jenkins, and Elvis came up and we were talking about school, and I said, well, I got to go in just a little while, but I said, I got a question to ask. And he said, what is it? And I said, well, these girls keep wanting something in the dorm, and I'm thinking, could I take something back? And he said, well, what in the world do you want? I said, well, I was just thinking about, what about a roll of toilet tissue from your bathroom? If you could autograph it. He thought, Charlie said, she's lost her mind. And I said, well, what do you think? He thought it was so bizarre that he sat down and autographed a whole roll of toilet tissue. And I had to tell everybody, I said, there must be some 2-ply hanging on somebody's wall somewhere in the country with Elvis Presley's name on it.
Oh, my goodness. Did you spend a lot of time at Graceland?
I did in my teenage years. I averaged going there probably once a month. Elvis wasn't always there, but it felt like a little fantasy land. I mean, it wasn't like you just got to go upstairs or run around and do whatever you wanted. But I remember one trip that Aunt Delta took me upstairs to see all of Elvis's costumes and his clothes.
Wow.
I couldn't believe his closet was just like a department store to me. You know, he had his shoes and his boots and his costumes, and his bedroom at this particular time was lined in some type of fur, and I remember, and he had built a little pretty bathroom, I think, there they had fixed for Priscilla, and he had his library to the right and Lisa's room upstairs. I remember, I thought, wow, it's pretty cool. Her little name was on the door, and had like little sprinkles of gold on it. And you can imagine, it was just like, wow, when I was that age.
I bet.
And to think that I was related to someone of such prominence was a wonderful thing, really. I didn't realize how wonderful until we all lost him.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of one-on-one time with Elvis, or?
Didn't have a lot of one-on-one time with him, but I had some.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a profound time when my brother David had gotten killed in a car accident, and my grandmother, Alice Hood Hacker, had arranged for me to go up, and she thought that it'd be good if I could talk to him. So Aunt Delta made that happen, and I remember he brought me upstairs into his bedroom to chat, and I sat in a chair then. I remember he told me that, he said, Edie, I think of death like this window, is that Mama's just on the other side of the window, so just know that David's just on the other side of that window, and one day we'll all be together again.
Wow.
So that was, one of the special moments. I remember another time I was sitting in Aunt Minnie's bedroom, which was off to the right of the jungle room, and I had brought up some black gum toothbrushes from my grandparents' farm, and my grandmother was with me on that particular trip, and we'd get enough so she could freeze them in her freezer, because they dipped snuff.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother, Alice, and Minnie were telling me some ghost stories and dipping snuff, and had those little black gum toothbrushes chewing around. It was a way to clean their teeth. I tell them it's a southern sorbet. But Elvis walks in and sees us engaged in these stories, and I remember him coming in and laying across her bed. And for just a short time, he seemed to never have a lot of time. There were so many people vying for his moments. And so what I did have, I treasured.
Yeah. Did you ever see Elvis in concert?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did, several times. And I even saw him in the last concert here in Birmingham, Alabama, in 1977, in that spring. He passed away in August. And I actually took my mom and my mother-in-law, Margie Hand, at that time, and another lady, and went backstage. The Jordanaires weren't there that evening. That evening it was the Stamp.
Right.
And J.D. hollered at me, and then my Uncle Vernon came over. So that was a cool time that we got to say hello and connect and have some great pictures of the concert and stuff. So yes, it was a special time.
Wow. Now, you were on a soap opera, because my mom used to watch it in the 70s. Can you tell me about it?
Yes. I was on As the World Turns, which was, I worked with CBS at that particular time. I owned an advertising agency prior to that, and I had taken a hiatus from it, had someone else running it, and so I was doing a television show locally, and was asked then for promotion to go on for a week at that time and to do As the World Turns, and gave me a little, you have like a one line here or there, and they liked me so much they had me back a few other times throughout the next couple of years. So I played Nurse Lila's doctor, which was Ann Sword, which was Nurse Lila on the show, and I had the big orange glasses, so I have some great pictures of that. So it was a fun experience. Probably had I not been a working mom at that time when they offered me a character role, I would have stayed, because it certainly was one of my dreams.
And the family came first.
It did.
Yeah. Now, was Elvis a fan of the show?
Oh, yeah, they tell me when I flew in once to Memphis, I was speaking for American Women of Radio and Television, and my Aunt Nash picked me up at the airport, and we went over to Graceland, of course, and before I went to speak at the luncheon, and Delta was there, and she said they were laughing about Elvis wasn't home at that time, but said that he actually caught me on the show in a kitchen scene, giving my few lines, and just thought that was the coolest thing, and thought that I looked very pretty, and he said, she is pretty and smart, so that was, made my head swell.
Yeah. Now, Elvis wanted to be a serious actor. Did he ever talk to you about that, and wanting to get a...
No, he never talked to me on the one-on-one. I never asked that question, but my Aunt Nash and Uncle Vernon, I talked with them about it. He was there a long time, and we talk about the movies and that, and they said that was one of his dreams that he regretted he did not get to fulfill.
Yeah. It's too bad he didn't get a better role.
Well, the Colonel controlled his time and what he did, and it's just like writing a book that I do with things, is that when you choose to give yourself as a service or a servant in different ways to whatever your particular field is, you really don't own yourself anymore. Other people own your time, and, if you commit to certain things. So a lot of us could say we had regrets, but there are great sacrifices with great successes, and with any great leader, there is certainly tremendous sacrifices in your personal life and things you might really want to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that you had met the Colonel. What did you think of the Colonel?
Well, I just thought he was a very short-spoken man that was just a matter of fact. He had his cigar in his mouth, and, he just didn't say very much. So my first impression of him was that he was kind of cold.
Oh, yeah? Huh. Elvis, to me...
But I didn't know him,
Right.
Again, I'm a teenager, I'm 19, I'm almost 20, but, no.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure he obviously was a special guy, or Elvis wouldn't have been connected with him.
Right.
But I think, whether you like the way someone conducts the business totally, but if they're delivering what you need them to deliver, sometimes you just accept what is.
Mm-hmm. Elvis to me seemed that he was lonely toward the end. He was searching for something. What did you think? It just seemed like, he would stay up in his room and that a lot. And did you notice that something was going on?
Anything else you read or hear, no one knows exactly all of it. But, yes, Elvis was a very private man. And I think he was searching for his own peace at times, and he got more recluse near the end, appeared to be, from what my aunt would share with me and her concerns of his health, and in that I just think his world changed when he and Priscilla divorced, and Lisa wasn't there as much, even though Linda Thompson was a great, I think, influence in his life, too. She loved him dearly, and I think he loved her, but I think his first love and true love was Priscilla.
Wow. Can you tell me how you found out Elvis had passed away?
Yes, as a matter of fact, my Aunt Nash called me from Graceland. She was there, and I could hear a lot of commotion in the background and crying, and she said, Edie, I want you to sit down. I said, what is it? And she shared with me that Elvis had passed, and I was just shocked. I didn't know what to say. She wanted me to know before it hit the news, and within the hour, it was everywhere.
My God.
And I was quite ill at that time, so I wasn't able to go to the funeral. That's one thing. I hate that I was not able to travel. I had just had a kidney and a half removed.
Goodness.
I was going through cancer, so and I was young, so it was my first year of marriage, and I wasn't able to go.
Yeah. When was the last time you talked to Elvis?
Well, that spring, in the spring, it was probably, I can't remember if it was March or April, but whenever he was here in Birmingham, that was my last time before he died in August.
Wow. What do you think of the never-ending popularity of Elvis Presley? He's still so big, Edie.
It never ceases to amaze me from generation to generation. His as an icon, like a Marilyn Monroe, like President John F. Kennedy, the on and on and on of the true icons. He is certainly up there, and I think my opinion is that it was his mystique, his genuineness, his innocence that was projected, that the people loved and longed for, and everyday people that we all work to just make a living and to think about, wow, this guy was one of us. and he achieved the American dream. I think that you get to touch a piece of someone that did it.
Mm-hmm. You've written some wonderful books, and you sent me some books, and one of the ones I like the best, I loved The Last Christmas Ride. That had to have been a very hard book for you to write.
Yes, it was my first novella. I have written about 12 books. Most of them have been stories within cookbooks. And this particular is the beginning of a series of mine. So you'll see a new book next year of The Soldier's Ride. But this book was closer to me, even though it was based on true events. It is a story about a sister's love.
Mm-hmm.
And our Christmas tradition was that we would ride our horses at dawn and sing Christmas carols. And we loved to go and cut Christmas trees and drag them behind our horse. But this is about families really standing by each other through tough times. And even though there could be difficult situations within your family, to say, we love each other in spite of our faults or what we think one another should be and they're not. And the lessons learned, the importance of growing up in a small community. And I was just there for them, and they were there for me. I missed them terribly. David died at 19 in a sudden car accident, and I was a senior in college, and he was a freshman. My brother Philip died 10 years later in a car accident at 23. And then my brother Terry was the toughest. It was 7 years that my mom and my sister and I caregave for him. Of course, now my mother is slowly dying. She has had many strokes and slowly losing all of her memory. It has been tough to give up so many people that I love, but I share the importance of why you should do these acts of kindness for others.
Mm-hmm.
When we're young, and I was taught that by my mother's mother, Alice, and by the examples of other strong women in my life, is that you can't outgive acts of kindness and having that faith and family and build some traditions together. So that's what the book is about. And even though it deals with tough times, it is from trials to triumphs that I, in my darkest times, even like losing special people in my family like Elvis that weren't, as close, but you feel like you're closer when you see so much about someone and are with them, in a different way. But I've learned that you have to detach.
Mm-hmm.
And through my own battles with cancer, I had cancer 3 different times, is that through all these tough times, if you can detach and let go and learn to live, then you will find joy in every day. And, in Proverbs, I love this passage, that's in Proverbs, and it says, I think if I can remember it, let me see if I've even got it right here. I try to keep it close by me, is that, the big thing is about learning to, Proverbs teaches us how to live if we read in the Proverbs. And I think there's another verse in Psalms that says, Psalm 51:10, that says, "Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me." So I try to do that. It was one of my brother Terry's favorite passages, and before he passed away and he died in my arms, was that he said, before he lost his speech, he asked me to tell our story.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was tough. Had I not had my good friend Jeffrey Addison, which is a pen name for Don Keith, he writes a lot of big novels of submarines, but he has his pen name because he wouldn't think he had a softer side. But it took someone to listen as I would write and email him things on the computer, and he'd say, "Edie, you need to stop. I'm crying on the other side." Or he'd say, "Edie, that's so funny, I'm laughing.
Uh-huh.
Keep it up." You have to have someone, even with Elvis or anything I've ever done in writing, it's like the Democrats once said, it takes a village to make anything happen, and it really does. If you didn't have volunteers or people working with you to do anything,
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't make something happen that great. And I'm excited because a friend of mine has the rights from the publisher and they're looking at a movie, so we thought there'd be a television movie of The Last Christmas Ride, but they're Krein now, so we should know about that before the year is out, so that would be next year that there would be either a television movie or a big screen movie.
Well, I highly suggest The Last Christmas Ride to the listeners. My mom absolutely loved it. It made her cry. So my mom loved it. So I was going to ask you, out of all your books, which one is your favorite, and I think that you're probably going to say The Last Christmas Ride.
Well, as far as my beginning of these novels, the novellas, The Last Christmas Ride, like I said, the next one to come out is The Soldier's Ride. And if your listeners want to go to ediehand.com or ediehandfoundation.org, they can learn a lot more about the books. But I think my favorite cookbook would have to be A Country Music Christmas. And I wrote that with a late legendary music publisher, Buddy Killen. It has an album in it. It has the song, The Last Christmas Ride, of this book. It has, and that is, you'd have to get that at Amazon.com because they decided to make it a classic to be there and at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum because Buddy died the day we were to leave on a national tour with pancreatic liver cancer, and he actually published Elvis's Heartbreak Hotel. That's how we met.
Yeah, wow.
So a lot of history, a lot of people, you know, like with the Ronnie McDowell that you'll see in the back of The Last Christmas Ride, about a sister's love. Ronnie, Joe Metter and I actually wrote that song on the way to St. Jude Children's Hospital just after Buddy's memorial. Joe was in the back seat with a guitar, and he said, well, Ronnie said, we're going to write a song today, Miss Edie. And I said, are you kidding with our emotions like this? He said, remember what Buddy said to you? Edie, you're a good storyteller. Ronnie and I are good songwriters, and you put them together and you make hits. So that's how Sister's Love was written.
Wow. Now, you've got a wonderful special coming up that you had just told me about, and can you tell the listeners about it?
Right. Holiday Memories with Miss Edie and Friends, and they can go to ediehand.com to check out our air dates in December, but it'll probably be around the second and third week in December across the country, and if they watch Inside Music Row, they can look for the listing there, which is already in 80 million households, is that it's inspired from my book of The Last Christmas Ride about family gathering with friends and sharing memories. And my cousin Angela Hacker, that's from the Presley lineage, we share the same grandmother, Alice Hacker, is that she and her brother Zach were the winner and runner-up for the National Star in 2007.
Right, yeah.
Singing lineage, and Georgette Jones and George Jones. Georgette's the daughter of George and Tammy, which you told me were one of your favorites.
I'm a big George Jones fan, yeah.
And then, of course, my son was in from Los Angeles, and Link was a part of it. And LINC, linkhand.com, if you want to check out what Link's doing if you're in the Los Angeles area, want to check his plays and movies out. Charlie Daniels, he's such a friend to so many. And Aaron Tippin. Mike Ferris is a new and upcoming Christian artist. Sings Away in the Manger. Andy Griggs, Bo Bice, you know, one of the runner-up to the big American Idol.
Yeah.
And Judy Spencer Nealon and a lot of the other gospel folks will be on hand. So we're going to be cooking in the kitchen. We share sweet stories with some special needs kids that are going through cancer, had a double lung transplant. One young man was about to lose his arm. And Georgette cooks with us in the kitchen. We share about favorite baking recipes and building a tradition. And
well, is this going to be a music show?
15,000 square foot home.
Is this a music show?
Part of it. It's not really all music. It's a lot of talking, but there is a lot of music. Singing. Ronnie McDowell co-hosts it with me, is the voice of Elvis, and we have great holiday memories from a lot of the stars at the ending of segments, and you get to hear a little sharing of Link and I together on the intimacy of family and importance of it in building new memories when we're not able to continue certain ones, but we do have them in our hearts and in our minds. So it will also benefit recognizing children's hospitals around the country through the Children's Miracle Network, and Ronnie and I and Georgette Jones will cut a PSA that'll air at the end of it to raise that awareness for people to think about giving and giving back at this time of the year to their local children's hospital and to families and children in need.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's going to be a wonderful show. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
Can you tell me about the Edie Hand Foundation?
Yes. If you went to Edie Hand, HAND Foundation.org, I started this in the memory of my three brothers. It's a small foundation, but we've probably raised, over the last 3 years that we've been doing this, is probably about $130,000, $40,000 for Children's Hospital that we've had, through our time and our items for auctions and events that I host. And a big portion of my book sales goes right back to giving back to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and to the Children's Hospital here in Birmingham, Alabama, that's affiliated with Children's Miracle Network. Mm-hmm. So we try to raise awareness. I've done some things for different charities that you can see on my website, and it's just a privilege for me. I don't have great wealth, but I do have great wealth in friends and people that have access to unlimited resources that are always very good to help me share and giving back to others.
Well, what else is coming up for Edie Hand?
Well, next, I'm finishing up a book about strong women, of women of true grit, and I am finishing with Jeffrey Addison a book called The Soldier's Ride, and it will be a series, and I have a fun book, The Sisterhood Ride, which is more like a Thelma and Louise. I mean,
Right.
I don't think I'm going to kill anybody off. It depends on if anybody's not nice to me between now and then. But that's what I do, and I lecture around the country. I speak at different churches. I was just, matter of fact, in New York this spring. I will be back to New York. I did Joey Reynolds' show on WOR Radio, and went out with my friend Dr. Judy Kuriensky, and we spoke in Tenafly at the high school there, and I did a book signing at the Tenafly Woolworth bookstore. And I'll be back. They want me to come back before Christmas and do another big signing and speak and do WOR Radio, and hopefully I'll be cooking and doing some things on CBS's early show. So we're working on some fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you go back to Graceland a lot?
No.
No?
I go periodically. It's just too painful.
Is it?
It really is. I mean, it was just so hard for me the last time I was there, just thinking about so many of my family that I've loved and lost. And tough experiences. But Ronnie and I will be back there this next year. I think I told him I'd do one more Elvis-related book. I do have an Elvis book all cooked up out there, and the Presley family and friends. But this is called The Genuine Elvis, and Ronnie McDowell and Joe Metter and I wrote this, and it really showcases Ronnie's paintings of his expressions of Elvis with others, and we share some stories from some of his closest friends that had not shared stories before, and then a first interview that Vernon and Gladys did with Elvis with the disc jockey that time in 1956, Tupelo, Mississippi, with Charlie Watts. He lives not far from me, so he gave me the story and the tape of the interview, so I actually have the tape of him interviewing Gladys and Vernon and Elvis and Nick Adams at that time. He was a big movie star. So, this will be a sweet little novelty book that's very affordable and something that will benefit the Presley house, and that was why Ronnie and I and Joe did this more for them and for that. So we will be doing something then, and Ronnie and I and Joe plan on taking the tour by ourselves to Graceland, and that'll probably be a very emotional thing for all of us.
I'm sure it will be. Edie Hand, thank you so much for doing this for Elvis Radio. I really appreciate it, and so do the listeners.
Well, it is my privilege. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the listeners. And for anyone that has ever loved and lost, know that Elvis would want you to live your life with zest and always find something good in each day and in each person. And remember that we don't have control over life's events, but we do have control over how we respond to them. And God bless you all.
There you go, Edie Hand, as interviewed by Joe Krein. I want to thank Edie for agreeing to do the interview here for Elvis Express Radio, the mother of all Elvis radio shows. Hope you've enjoyed this week's edition of the Elvis Request Show. Don't forget to join Robert for his gospel show, the Reverend Robert, for the gospel show this coming Sunday. Lana will be here on Monday. Now, I need to quickly remind you that Lana will be recording the show on Sunday evening. Okay, so all your requests must be in to us by Sunday afternoon at the latest, okay? So that Lana can bring you the Love Show on Monday. Tony King with the Tony King Show will be with us on Tuesday, and I'll be returning on Wednesday with the TCB Show, where we kick off the series of Elvis's worldwide #1 hits. I'm looking forward to that. So, to play us out on this week's Elvis Request Show, it's another track from that legendary historic concert 52 years ago today, on September the 26th. Elvis Presley returned to his birthplace of Tupelo, and this is one of the songs he sang. It's Long Tall Sally. Thanks for listening, and keep supporting Elvis Express Radio, and we love playing the songs for you.
Listening to the Elvis Request Show on Elvis Express Radio.
You say that you love me, then swear it to